All right, guys, welcome. So, welcome to OMG version 2.0, Reclaiming Power, part two. We are going to be working and we're going to be working. We're going to be I'm pondering on this stuff. I listened to the modules that were the Reclaiming Power module. I'm listening to it, I'm studying it, and then I go and take that away and ponder on it to come back and talk to you guys about a more simple understanding, or I take something from there and go, okay, well, is everyone clear on that? Like, for example, today, the word perception just stood out. You know, after listening to the part two, disc two of the Reclaiming Power, just that word, it just echoed for me, perception, perception. And I knew I needed to take that word and ponder on that word, and we need to, you know, deliver Reclaiming Power through the eyes of perception, if you like. So, you know, my point is I'm doing just like you guys, and it's a lot of work just for me as much as it is for you guys. So let's start with that. If I go back to my notes here, the questions that we left from last week to ponder, there was a couple of things to do. So we'll go through the list, and then we'll get straight into part two, which is the disc two of Reclaiming Power. Okay, so there's a lot to cover. I'll leave it for you guys. You know, you take one at a time. Who wants to answer? There was a couple of things. There was, does separation create charge, or does the charge create separation? Is it the energy that resolves, or is it your perspective? Which is a very good question. And then the other thing that you guys were going to do is list all the things that you're trying to control and see if you can remember the moment where you actually put power into that. Because remember, the very thing you're trying to control actually is controlling you. And if it's controlling you, it means you have power in it. Something can only control you if you have power in it. So that was homework part three. So let's, over to you guys. Let's have a discussion before we get into some content.
So do we just go off with each question?
So Jamie, I know he just said before, he couldn't find anything that he is looking to control. So he must be totally free. Kira's laughing. Oh, they're all laughing. So Jamie, do you want to start with, you didn't find anything?
Well, do you want to start with the other ones, or just that one specifically?
No, we'll start with one of the other guys because they're on the camera. So,
okay.
All right. So you guys go.
I'll talk.
Yes, Amy, go for it.
The one with the separation create charge, or does the charge create separation? I thought of the example, and you used it in our last talk, my husband dying. So around that, I thought, well, when I see him as separate to me, which I did at the time, I hadn't done any of this work. That's where the suffering and that's where the huge charge and all the emotion and all the pain is. It's when I don't see him, when I see him as separate to me.
Yeah.
But when in oneness, and when I see him as myself and everything's connected, then the charge is dissolved. So for me, the separation creates the charge.
Okay. Okay, cool. So for you, the separation creates the charge. The separation creates the charge. Okay. Okay, cool. Anyone else?
Can I comment on the separation?
Absolutely.
I feel the separation, to me, it's very similar actually to the one after that, I brought up. Who creates the separation? That's the question. Is it like me, the little me, thinking I'm separate, or is it the ocean? I don't believe the ocean creates the separation. So it's that kind of thing. It's perspective. It's like, who am I being at that point, or who is viewing at that point the situation, condition, or experience?
So if the ocean doesn't create separation, then why is separation experienced?
Because I live in the world of duality. Who I think I am lives in the world of duality. The duality has the experience of separation.
So how can duality exist without the ocean intending that?
I mean, I believe like the ocean could intend that, if we want to use that word. But again, it's like, I agree with the feeling of the one separated itself in its own mind. It's not really a thing that happened in a sense. It's a thought of something, to experience, like you say, infinity times infinity.
That's right.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, right, there was a point where, if you go back to WTF, the one, as much as it doesn't need to do anything, a lot of people, when I first started this work, they would say, the reason or the purpose or the why of why the one manifests itself into two is because it wants to see its own reflection. It's like, but why? It doesn't, like, it knows itself. It doesn't need to see itself. So and again, this is not really true, because the human mind can't conceive why in its thoughts. But if I created a story, and that's what I did in the WTF, I created a story of why, because the one thing the one can't have. And again, that's not true, because it can have whatever, right? But the one thing it can't experience is another one. So it's not to see another one, it's to play or interact or connect, you know what I mean? And I only use the word play because we relate to that as human beings. As a child, you can play with yourself. I've watched Orlando, he plays with his toys by himself. But when someone walks to the room, a guest comes over, he gets so excited, he's just jumping out of his skin because he knows he can play with someone else now. Does that make sense? So, and that's why I use the word play, right? So the one thing an infinite being couldn't have, and we know it could because it's an infinite being, and that's why it is experiencing what it's experiencing right now. It is experiencing itself in two to create the opportunity for the two to become the one, and you begin to experience infinity times infinity when there is multiple ones. Now, in truth, there is only one, but in this physical experience or in duality, you will begin to have multiple ones. And that's why in many religious texts or philosophies, or more religious texts, they talk about the one will return, whatever it is they believe in. I haven't started religion for a long time, so excuse me if I'm wrong. But from memory, as a child, I studied different religions. I remember it was whether the prophet or the messenger or whatever, they will return. They were the one, and they will return. Okay? But it's not them returning. It's you returning as the one in this physical realm. And that is what I experienced in the WTF experience, as you are living as an infinite being in a finite world. Because there's still the finite, but the finite is not who you are, because you are all. Does that make sense? Just a reminder of back in the WTF text stuff, videos. So yes, John, you're right. But just understand, nothing can happen without it being, let's just call it, decided or intended from the beginning. And again, this is all misinterpreted because there is no beginning or end, but you get what I'm saying, because you can refer back to the WTF in the beginning, right? Unless the one intended it. The one thing an infinite being couldn't have is another infinite being. Now you will understand that because there can only be one infinite, because if there's two infinite, they're not infinite, they're finite. I don't need to explain that to you guys. All right, but just remind you. The one thing an infinite being couldn't have is an experience to experience another infinite being. It's impossible, unless, and again, it's not impossible for the infinite because it's all possible for infinite. Well, that's what we're experiencing now. Okay, but we're experiencing it in time because time also supports the experience of separation. And there will be days or moments soon to come where more and more would become the one in a finite experience and begin to see other ones. Because the moment you become one, you get to experience other ones. You don't look at the costume anymore. It's like Orlando, when someone walks through the door, they don't look at the costume. They don't look at what they're wearing. They don't, most of the time, he doesn't care who it is. I want to play with you. The reason you could see, it's not necessarily that someone becomes the one, and then this someone is waiting for someone else to become the one. Because the moment this becomes the one, all it sees is the one. And it becomes infinity times infinity. So remember that. Okay, anyone else?
First, that's really interesting because I've been misinterpreting that for like 8 years.
How are you interpreting it, Kira?
That another one would become the one, and then the two ones will play together, but it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
But it never occurred to me in that way. I just always took it literally.
And that's how it is meant to be interpreted for many people, because the mind will just go, but there isn't anyone? Like, am I going to be lonely? Like, is it? So it's like, yeah, that's why, when I talk about relationship, you're finding another one, like Sally and I, Sally doesn't listen to any of my talks, right? I don't need her to. I've never needed to. Previous relationships I was like, because I needed them to either change, or B, I needed them to realize how great I am. It was one or the other, right? I don't need her. I just need her to be herself. And as long as I continue to see myself as the one, and don't get me wrong, I don't do this all the time, right? I will get into the story, but when I need to, I will. When I need to show up, I always do. That I don't have a doubt. But, like, I don't walk around and just seeing the one in her all the time. Maybe my mum does stuff like that, but I don't. I'm very happy to get into the story and get tangled, but when I need to untangle, I'm very good at being untangled. So yeah, good point, Kira. Anyone else? Yes, Anna.
I was going to say, for me, I felt like when there's a charge is when I feel separate, because I'm labeling it as either good or bad. And then now there's two. Yeah. And I'm separate from it. That's where I feel separation.
When there's a charge, you definitely feel separation.
Mm-hmm.
So what did Amy say again? Go back to what did you say again?
Well, I said if I'm seeing something as separate to me, then there's a charge. But if in oneness, there's no charge because it's me as the one.
But isn't it a bit like asking what's first, the chicken or the egg? Like they're both the same thing in a way. So I don't, like when I was pondering about this, I was like, well, what is first, the separation or the charge, if they're both the same? Like separation creates charge and charge creates separation, or you notice a separation when you feel the charge. So it's like they're two sides of the same coin for me.
Good. The point is for you to ponder on it, right?
Yeah.
I felt the same way, Kat. But I definitely, I thought a lot about how, like going to Greg's narrative, that if you buy into, the story, right? He said it takes away his space, right? Which to me is the same as separation, right? He's seeing the separation and buying into the story. And I feel like the same thing happens with thought. If you are in the moment, you can acknowledge the thoughts, but not necessarily identify with them, and therefore not put power into them. But, if you do, if the thought is there and that charge then ignites the separation, which then you can reclaim your power back from. Does that make sense?
To me, it does.
So, okay, cool. Any other thoughts around that before I?
Yep. For me, there's a movement involved. When I'm in my heart and look at the world from that point of view, then things can unfold the way they are. However, when there is a charge arising, there's a movement taking place, whereas I'm moving from my heart into my head. And it's that energy that takes me then into separation. And I would also then agree with separation creates the charge.
Okay. So, Harold, you were next.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I had to think about electrical charge, obviously.
Yes.
And I also stated in the document I sent, like charge is always there. Just when two different charges are very close together from the outside, you perceive it as neutral. And I thought, well, if you take two different charges very far away from each other, then there's almost no force between it and you don't realize there's charge. That's in the interpretation for me, when looking at the world from a standpoint of black and white, everything's easy. It's separate, good, bad, black, white. The world is easy for maybe a lot of people. But when you then bring the charges a little bit closer together, then there's a force field which you can perceive. And then you realize there's charges. Like when you're on the journey and trying to change or to evolve or getting back to neutrality, suddenly there's a place where you realize, oh wow, there's charges.
Yeah.
And this realization itself creates an even stronger feeling of being separate. And but when you continue the journey and bring the charges back together, then at a certain point they are so close together that you don't perceive the charge anymore, but you realize the whole thing as neutral. For me, that was an interesting way to understand how this journey can be difficult when you first start to perceive the charges and the force field, the separation that is created.
So Harold, what are you explaining there? What theory is that?
That's my way of
No, but what
explaining.
theory is that? Is it like, is that a study, or what is that? Electronic mechanics? What is that theory called?
Well, that's electrostatics, if you want.
Okay, cool.
Just yeah, positive and negative electrical particles, if you like.
I like that. I like how, I mean, it's, again, I've never studied that, so I don't understand it. But what you explained to me there was very clear, and I can reference to that as, you know, everyday charges. And we spoke about charges last week, so I won't really talk about our last session. But yeah, I mean, the way I relate to that is that, you know, some charges we perceive to be small, because it's not consuming space in our mind. It's not there for us to pay attention. But remember, the charges support the experience of separation. So we are here to experience the world of duality, the world of separation. But when a charge is there to what's the word we used last week? Resolve. Niv used the word. When it's there to resolve, it comes closer together, right, in time and space, and you become aware of the energy, right? Now, that energy is the charges coming together to resolve. And when they do resolve, you get this point of neutrality, right? But when the energy that you begin to feel with these two charges beginning to resolve, that is then labeled many different things. It could be labeled as love, as positive. It could be labeled as anger, as fear, and again, as we know, it's neither of those. That's just how you perceive it, because all it is two energies coming back together to resolve. Does that make sense? And when it does resolve, there's a part of you that becomes whole and complete. And that is the journey. We're here to let it resolve. Now, if you're on the path of consciousness, some people, they're not there yet, and they're there to continuously unresolve emotions, energies, okay? To continue to make them go outwards, you know, push them away somehow, rather than bring them together as one. So that's the way I'll relate what you're explaining. But what I want to make very clear here is that it is when the two energies come together, you begin to feel the sensations of those energies. And that's all it is. You begin to feel the vibration, the sensation, the energy, and that's all it is. The mind then goes, what is this, right? And what is causing this? And based on what you perceive to be causing that, you will label that energy or that sensation as negative or positive. It's neither. Okay, so this is what happens. So I like what you're saying, and I know when we say it's two energies, at the beginning there was one, and we spoke about this last session, so it's coming up again, but we spoke about this last session about the one manifested itself into two charges, right? Now, we could label that as positive or negative, as good or bad, or external, internal. You can label it as whatever you want because it's duality. But the reason it has to manifest itself into two energies, because that's all what it really is. It's the energy part. It's like you're following a river and it's going down really fast, and then it just parts into two. It's the same, but it's just parted into two smaller streams, right? It's just so that this stream can look at the other stream and realize there's another stream over there. And this stream can look over the ground and look at the other stream and go, there's another stream over there. It's the same stream. So what you must understand is that's why the energy parted into two, for you to have the experience that you're having duality, or for the one to manifest the experience of duality, right? When you are coming back home to yourself or resolving, it's where some parts of the river, the streams, meet again. and become one. And that's what we experience as neutrality or love, infinite love, where it feels like something in you became whole and complete, right? Which is what the two streams are always doing, because the two streams are always perceiving that there's something missing, something's not whole, something's not complete. Yeah, it's looking for resolution. It's looking for the other part of itself. And when it gets closer, all right, you begin to feel the charge, right? The mind doesn't understand what this charge is. Therefore, it looks at what is causing this charge. If someone is saying you're amazing, how great you are, you label it as positive. If someone, or you're taking credit, if you like. If someone is saying how terrible you are and you've done this and you've caused harm and da-da-da-da, and someone looks like they're causing harm to you, you label that as negative. Okay? Remember, the story that unfolds, right, is only supporting you to feel the energy that has come to become whole. Okay? So, yeah, go on, Harold.
Yeah, I just, I don't want to distract you from where you were going, but as you were just talking about infinity and separation, I had to think of infinity in different dimensions, if you like the universe or the whole space is infinite in multiple dimensions, but also just a line can be infinite in both directions without taking up the whole space, or a plane can be infinite in 2 dimensions without taking up the whole space. So I was just thinking, maybe I can think of myself as being infinite as a line or a plane in the 3-dimensional infinity. So I'm infinite in some directions, but maybe not in all directions. So that's, for me, is a way of being able to think of me being infinite without yet taking up all the space and all the infinity in all directions.
Right?
Huh?
What you're describing is being infinite in the finite world. Is that right?
Yes. And just as a graphic picture, like I can be an infinite line in both directions, no end. I can be an infinite plane in several directions. But at the same time, I'm not infinite in the sense of taking up all the space. But just a thought.
We get it.
That's really helpful.
We get it. You're an infinite line.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for that, Harold. Anyone else?
The only thing I like to say is that certain key words for me popped up in the discussion, like when you're talking about the 2 rivers coming together or whatever. I just think of that as connectivity, you know. And there was something else that you said that struck me. Oh, like every time we're talking about the 2 energies, for me, the 2 energies are always within that one. Like they came from the one and they separated to see each other. But, you know, in my mind, I'm always preferencing it with connectivity and from the one. You know, it's not really 2 separate, it's polarities. Just like for me, the infinity sign is this kind of thing. It's opposites, it's not separates, it's polarities. So those are just words and things that are kind of percolating in my space.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you very much. So therefore, what you need to look at as well is we go back to that statement, and we said, does separation create change, or does the change create separation?
Charge.
Charge. Thank you. Does separation create charge, or does the charge create separation? But in truth, there is no separation, right? And wait for it, and therefore there is no charge. Or for some of you, you said the charge is what creates the separation. right? But yes, your separation is perceived, right? There is an appearance of separation, therefore there is an appearance of a charge. Just to ponder a bit more. Like if you wanted to go to the big picture, which I felt that's where John was going there, right? Yes,
I mean, for me, it also alerts to who's actually aware of, that there's a separation, and who is also recognizing, that I feel separated. There's some part of me that is actually recognizing the separation and the charge and everything else.
Yes, and where do you recognize that from, Abe?
Well, from the perspective of the one.
So perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you. So perspective, or which is a word that we've used, which was the other thing that we came up with, which was, does the energy create? No, sorry. What was the other one? Is it the energy that resolves, or is it your perspective? But the energy has always been resolved. Again,
if perceived as not being resolved.
Sorry,
it's perceived as not being resolved.
Okay, so therefore, I'm glad we're landing on this point. What I might ask you guys to do from here on in, if you've got a question or you want to say something, just put your hand up and I'll point at you like this, and then you can unmute yourself because I'm about to go into content. All right. So therefore, the 2 points that I want to highlight here is that, so the first point was, does separation create the charge, or does the charge create separation? Now, I would like to place our attention on the truth here, right? Because that's what we do. And that's what today, the second part of this stuff is about, placing your attention on the truth. So that was the first question that we all went to ponder on, is that, does separation create the charge, or does the charge create separation? But if you place your attention on the big picture, right, there is no separation. The stream seems to be separate, but if you go back to where the stream split or had the experience of splitting, you realize there is no separation. So therefore, there is no charge. But then, as Abe says, there is an appearance, or there's a perspective, right? So this is what brings us to this word perception. Perspective, perception, are we talking about the same thing here? I didn't look up the word perspective in a dictionary.
Perspective is like your seeing, perception is your understanding.
Is it? Oh, Jamie, that's very good if that's true.
I just made that up. I think that's what it is.
Jamie just said perspective is your seeing and perception is your understanding. Or is that the other way around? Perception is... Anyway, we could look up in a dictionary, but this is why this word perception got highlighted for me. Okay. The second thing you guys went to ponder on is it the energy that resolves, or is it your perspective? Right? The energy's always been resolved. It's never unresolved. So therefore, it's your perspective. It's your perception that is unresolved. So again, this word perception, right? So are we experiencing the world of separation? Are we experiencing the charges through our perceptions? Right? Well, yes, right? I mean, you can go back to Einstein or many different teachers and philosophers from back in the days, and they will tell you that the world is merely an illusion. This is where in WTF I talk about that it's not really here. It appears to be here. The moon is not really bright. It appears to be bright because the sun is shining. It's reflecting upon it from its light. Right? So if you can grasp what I'm about to share with you, it will make reclaiming power very simple. Okay? You would then also get to understand when you're putting power into something, where in you are you putting that power? Because it's not like I'm putting power into this chair. It's somewhere in me and how I see this chair and why I'm so unhappy with this chair. Where is that? So this word perception needs to be spoken about for this topic of reclaiming power. So picking up what we spoke about last week, we spoke about this one energy in the beginning. This one energy manifested itself into two, and I did this, right? And the two keep coming together and having resolutions. Yes, which is the infinity sign, as who said it? Someone said it on WhatsApp. Susie. Why? Because, and you go back to WTF, the one thing an infinite being could not have was another infinite being, because there could not be two infinite beings. But if the infinite being splits its energy into two, it gives itself an opportunity or creates the experience or the appearance that there is now two. This is what we experience through our physical world, known as duality. For everything that we see, there is another. It's the opposites, the polarity, you know? And you will notice, and again in the WTF, I always say that this is always imbalance, because what it really is a reflection of itself showing up. If I look into the mirror, what I see in the mirror is completely balanced to who I am. It's not like this is me, but I look in the mirror, but I see two heads. No, I see exactly that which I am, but I see it as an opposite. I see it as something looking back at me. It's always in balance. This is what balance and harmony is all about. Okay? Now, this idea which we talk about, and I introduced this work at the beginning by going and talking about the label of positive and negative, okay? Where we say, well, if there's a positive, there's equal and opposite negative. Now, the truth is, it's not a positive nor a negative. And again, I say this in the WTF at some points, but it's easier for people to understand that there is a positive and negative, because there's no such thing as positive and negative. It's just the two energies you're feeling. Okay? You then feel that two energy and you feel it as a sensation. It's just energy moving, right? You then look at what is causing this sensation, and there's a story which then you label as, oh, that's negative, therefore that's a negative emotion I'm feeling. Right? Now, this can only be experienced, not understood, but it can be experienced when someone is reclaiming power. That is why I get someone to just stop and be present, right? And be one with the emotion. We spoke about one of the other things that I asked you to ponder on, which was how allowing to be. And I was like, well, what is it? What are you doing when you're allowing to be? Now you're grasping the reclaiming power process. The reclaiming power process is for you to feel the sensation. You've already labeled why you feel it. And if the story is reflecting something that you don't like, now the reason why you don't like it is because it's got to do with your perception of what it is. Now, where your perception is coming from has got to do with your belief. Okay? Your belief your belief, or it's the only word I have. Your belief is where you store the energy, the charge. Okay? This, just stay with me here. It's the first time I've actually delivering it the way I'm delivering it. You haven't heard it this way, but it will really clarify it for you. All right? The reason you are allowing it to be is because you want to disconnect to why or what you think is causing you to feel that energy. And you want to just feel the energy or the sensation. Or in Reclaiming Power, we talk about the emotion. Okay? You just want to feel the emotion to the point where you become one with the emotion. What is one of the things that happens when you become one with the emotion? The memory of why or what was causing you to have that emotion disappears. Now, if you wanted to think about it and remember, it will come back. But it disappears because you become one with the emotion. The two energies have come together and mended as one and feel complete. You then experience what's called neutrality. So, just wanted to touch on allowing to be. So again, you're understanding now why we do that. We allow it to be because you don't want to react to what's actually taking place. Because you reacting to the story of what's taking place creates the resistance. In one of the audios that I shared with you this month, you should have got it and you should have listened to it. And it was one of the truth webinars. I'm talking about freedom. And I say most people think freedom is when they are free to do whatever they want to do whenever they wanted to do. If you ask people what is freedom, they'll go, and this was my answer, it is to do whatever I want to do whenever I wanted to do. Therefore, what's going to give me that is financial freedom. But in that talk, in that webinar, I go on to get people to realize freedom is when you're free of resistance. That's when you feel free. Free to show up, free for opportunities to blossom, free to be yourself, free to love, free to receive love. You are free. So the allowing it to be, right, it's not necessarily around the story. I'm just going to allow the story to be. It's allowing the energy to be. You want to drop deeper through perception. You want to get to a point where you've experienced this neutrality, because what's actually happening when you experience this neutrality, when the two energies are coming back to one, is you are emptying your mind. You are emptying the belief that you have. All right? Remember, your beliefs are where you store the charge. Okay? How you see something, how you perceive something, your perspective is according to your belief. Right? Now, I'm not getting into we need to change our belief, because that's what most people do. They want to change their belief. Now, let me tell you something. Your beliefs form from two places. One is what is happening through form, through the physical world. It's things that have influenced you externally. If you like, an easier way to grasp what I'm saying to you is, if you can imagine this one infinite energy manifested itself into two energies, right? These two energies, let's just call them external reality and internal reality, just to help for this to land. All right? Remember, in OMG, I talk about the whole point of OMG is about bringing the external world and the internal world to become one of the same. Okay? When your beliefs are formed from how you see your world or what is happening in your world, because your perceptions, right, can contribute to your beliefs as well. So, not to lose you here, the belief that comes from the external world, right, is influenced. It's like when I talk about influenced, free will. And I say, and again, I talk about this in this OMG, and I say that free will is not influenced, right? A belief that is formed from what's been told to you, what's been experienced through your external world, is an influenced belief, right? Now, probably should explain to you in this reality or in this story why beliefs are important, okay? The beliefs are important because that's where you store something. Probably the best way to explain it is perception is what we see. Perception is what is being projected onto a screen. If you think about the projector, this is going back to basic stuff here. If you think about a projector, it is projecting onto a screen. What it is on what you see on the screen is your projector, right? The projector itself, or the film in the projector, is the belief. Okay? Like I said, there's two parts, or there's two ways that your beliefs are forming. One is from what is taking place in the external world, which means your belief is influenced. When you are neutralizing an emotion, right, you are clearing the belief. All right? This is why you no longer have memory of it. Okay? If someone is neutralizing an emotion of a very difficult hardship or a difficult suffering of something that happened to them in their life, right? If they do this process, if they neutralize or reclaim the power, if they neutralize the emotion, they no longer have the memory of what was perceived to cause them to have this suffering or this emotion. All right. Again, I've done this work with many people in the WTF. This does not mean you cannot recall the memory. It means the memory no longer feeds how you see your reality anymore. You are cleared, your perception is cleared to see what it is, not what happened to you in the past and how it could happen to you in the future again. You are free from the story. The memory gets wiped. When you are neutralizing, you are emptying your belief. Right? Now, why is it important to empty your belief? If you remember our friend Bruce Lee, right? Bruce Lee used to talk about, I cannot teach you what you know because your glass is full. You need to empty your glass. This process of neutralizing is emptying your beliefs. The emptying of the mind is clearing the belief. Why is that important? Because the other part of you where your beliefs are formed from is your internal world. Now, why, this is probably the part where I should tell you, I think I tried to before, but I went away from it. Why it's important for you to have beliefs. Your beliefs is your platform. It's your stage. Your beliefs are your stage, right? So let me give you an example. In business, if I have an idea, or if I'm looking for an idea or solution, I look towards my creative mind. I look to be creative. And through my creativity, which is referred to as the right brain, right, an idea will present itself. right? But that idea only presents itself for this moment now. And it's brilliant. And you'll be like, wow, it's beautiful. You feel its possibilities, etc., etc. If you want to then implement that idea for it to continue to duplicate, for it to continue to maybe be shared. Right now, I'm sharing an opportunity with people who would like to facilitate this kind of work. I need to duplicate the opportunity. For me to do that, I need to then present a stage, a platform, all right, known as systems or procedures. Does that make sense? So this is, and again, you've heard me talk about creativity, and I say creativity is just now, it comes now. But if something has come now and you would like to keep it, okay, not control it, but to present it for others to experience your creativity, then you may, you know, like for example, you wanted to form, then you need to formulate something. Okay, so this becomes a platform. This is in business, this is known as systems, as procedures. Okay, systems and procedures are there to what's the word, as a stage, as a space for the idea to be duplicated or shared. Okay, I'm talking business terms now, right? So the beliefs that you have, right, that come, the part of you that influences or forms your belief from the internal, right? Your internal knowing, right, puts into the belief the things that you believe according to what you know. What you know in your heart is not a belief. But if you want to continue to use that in your everyday living, it's almost like you program it into your belief center that this is your belief now, right? This is why in all my content that I share with you guys, I say to be able to live this, the internal world and the external world need to come together as one. To be able to live this, you must believe in what you know. You must, most people, spiritual people, it's all of us at some point, we know this stuff. And you go, I know it to the core of my being. But when it comes to the physical world, you can't live it. You can't live it because your belief isn't matching what you know. Because your belief center may be full. Because your beliefs is just a computer program. That's all it is. It is a computer. My mum used to tell me when I was younger, Amir, your mind is just a computer. You put it in your mind and that's it. It's only later, many years, when I'm like, putting what in my mind? So I'm just going to just help you here again. Your beliefs is like a computer program. It's a platform, right? Either there is external things influencing your belief. So, for example, well, to be loving, you must give. Well, no, you give because you're loving. Do you understand? You know, you can't be spiritual and loving and be wealthy. These are external influence belief. You're unworthy. You're all these different things, right? You get the opportunity to reclaim power or to neutralize these beliefs, right? Remember, your belief influences what you see. If your external world influenced your belief, It's not your true belief. It's influenced. Just like your free will. It's not really free will. It's influenced. Right? I will just highlight one more point, is that your perception of what is, right, which is, and again, I used to talk about this in the WTF back in the day, Quest for Truth, in the very early days. I used to put a bit in there about beliefs. I don't talk about it anymore. I can't remember how I used to deliver it, but your belief, oh yeah, I do remember it now. I remember the slide. Just came to me. But anyway, your belief determines your perception. Your perception then determines what you see. What you see then determines your experience. Your experience then re-influences the original belief. You remember that, Jamie? Oh, I might have to put that back in the. I remember that. I might have to put that back in the program. I'll say that again. Your belief influences what you see, your perception. Your perception then determines your experience of what is. Your experience of what is then determines the original belief, and it re-influences the belief. It makes it stronger. So you keep reprogramming that, yes, this is true. I don't have the money. I don't have the money. And everything points to that. And you're like, but I don't have the money, Amir. It's like, okay. So what happens when we're reclaiming power is, and I love what Harold said, is the two energies at some point when it's time. You don't have to look for this. Two energies come together. It's time for resolution. They're there to resolve. The two energies are always looking to be resolved, right? And again, let's just call these two energies as the internal reality and the external the internal reality and the external reality. Let's just call it that for now. I don't have a better word for it. Okay, I can't call it positive or negative, because the truth is, and now we're talking at a deeper level, there is no positive or negative. It's just two energies, which then you label as positive, negative, based on what you thought or what you think or what you perceive is causing you to have those vibrations. They're just sensations. That's all they are. And you guys have reclaimed power before. If you reclaim power, you get to a point where you're just experiencing sensation. I've done this many times. I sit there, I process, I allow it to be, I let it be, and I connect, I become the emotion, and all I feel is no longer the positive or negative or good or bad. I just feel sensations. All I'm feeling is energy. And that moment, I'm like, I even forgot what was causing that. Okay? So what you're doing in that process is you are bringing the two together as one. You are emptying your mind. You are clearing the belief. Why is that important? Because then you make space to allow for the internal part of you that knows this stuff. And this is how I've communicated all my work here. All right. I got up on stage and I decided to not talk to the ego. I decided to talk to the part of them that knows what I'm talking about. And I would always, and you've heard me say, don't listen to what I'm saying, listen to the space that the words are coming from, because they know what I'm talking about. And they go, I know this and I feel this, and it feels like I've always known it. It feels so true to me. That's the part I'm talking to. And I want that part to be able to come into form. But for it to come into form, it goes into your programming of your belief. But if your belief center is full, it can't. Or maybe it does, if you like, but you have this clash. You feel this, you know it's true, but then you can't, because the story says something otherwise. I'm like, what story? What separation? What are you talking about? And like, that story. Does that make sense? So this internal part where you know it's true, if you have space, it automatically, you don't have to try to do this. I've never tried to do this. I just noticed as I found more and more space, and that's why next month we're going to be talking about manifestation, and you guys know what that's all about. The whole thing is about space, right? as you make more space, you allow yourself to program, right? And remember, I just want to make this clear, right? There is no power in the belief, right? The belief is just a projector. All right. It's just, there's a belief that comes to me where I go, oh, Abba is me. Where I begin to believe that inner knowing. So therefore, as I begin to believe, like I believe the money will show up. I believe that it's all taking it. Do you know what I mean? Like my inner knowing, the inner knowing is great. It's a great connection, and it's your inner knowing, and no one can take that away from you. But the idea of bringing that inner knowing into your physical world, you go through your belief. You program that, and you begin to act, and you begin to say the things that you know from your inner knowing. It begins to match. Your inner world and external world begin to work together in harmony. It begins to become one of the same. That's what the OMG program is about. That's what I told you. The first 6 months is about, you guys have done it, we're doing it again. The first 6 months of the OMG program is all about the internal process. The second 6 months of the OMG program is all about the external process. By the end of it, it's about bringing the internal process and the external and becoming one of the same. Don't confuse what I'm saying to you about changing your beliefs, because changing your beliefs is someone thinking, oh, I'm not worthy, right? So then they look for external influences to make them change or manipulate their beliefs of not being worthy to being worthy. For example, affirmations. Again, supportive for someone who is wrapped up in the external reality only. Someone that knows only a part of themselves, as the physical is what's real. It's supportive for someone like that, but not for you. You're not here to change your belief. You're here to clear them. Clear your mind to allow your inner knowing. And your inner knowing, I can't tell you what that is. You know what that is. I continuously talk to your inner knowing, and I know you feel what I'm saying. When I talk up on stage, even someone who's never ever heard me talk, I talk to the inner knowing. I never forget when I was in New Zealand doing my talks, and I came into this room, and there was all these big Maori guys, you know, the Maori, the indigenous, like New Zealand people, they're indigenous, right? And these big guys are like, they're really big, and they come there in their thongs and shorts, and they got tattoos everywhere. Some of them got tattoos on their face. It's part of their culture, right? And I'm there going, oh my God, look at the room I've got to talk to. And of course, I don't change a thing. I talk to their inner knowing. The most beautiful thing I saw is when I saw a few of these men sitting next to each other with tattoos and, you know, different things on their piercings on their face, and sitting there like this and just crying. It's like, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, because I'm talking to your inner knowing. And that's what my work is continuously been about. So the importance of reclaiming power right now gets a new perspective, okay? You need to understand. I'm trying to get you to understand why we do what we do, okay? Believing in what you know is an understanding of what you know. You take a knowing that cannot be interpreted by the human mind nor spoken by the human mind, and you bring it into form, it becomes an understanding. You understand the truth. I can't take this feeling that I've felt and speak about it until I can understand it to a form. I could never put it into words unless I digested it, dissected it, and understood it. The more I lived it, the more I understood it. At the beginning, I had no, ask Gaz, the very first Quest for Truth I did, she just said, I've never heard someone say, I'm more than you. And then there's this one feeling, because it's all coming from the head at the beginning.
Did she find you?
Hey?
Did she find you?
No. Gaz has listened to these, by the way, Jamie, so she might
It's all right.
be giving you a visit. Okay, so questions, comments, contributions. Does it simplify the reclaiming process? I will add one more thing actually before I open up for questions. The final stage of reclaiming power is to be able to place your attention on the truth. Okay, now, you know, most people struggle to understand what placing your attention on the truth is because they try to do it with their head. You know, like, to me, like, if someone is listening to this stuff and they go, I don't know how to place my attention on the truth, they're lying. Because the moment I speak to you and I'm speaking to your knowing, which is your truth, and if you feel what I'm saying to you, you've just placed your attention on the truth, you fucking liar. You placed your attention on the truth. You do it all the time. I can't teach that part, okay? This process for me, right, at the beginning, I had so many processes come up and I did sit with so many emotions. I didn't understand what was actually taking place. I didn't know I was creating space in my mind or emptying my mind or emptying my beliefs. I didn't know. I knew it wasn't about changing my belief. I knew that was a load of shit. But I just stayed with the emotions and I had lots of emotions, lots of things to be resolved. Right? Nowadays, I don't. It's far and few. Doesn't mean things don't show up for me in the world. It just, I resolve them very quickly by simply placing my attention on the truth. I don't doubt that there will be something in the world that may come up and will knock me off my feet again. And if it does, I will go and feel the emotions. I will allow it to be, and I will discharge that emotion. It will happen. Again, I'm not trying to do it. I just have a willingness to feel the emotion. But we do that. We empty the mind. We empty the programmed external influence beliefs, if you like, right? So that you can place your attention on the truth. Just remember, the moment that you have emptied your mind, the moment you've got to neutrality, you no longer need the very thing you thought you needed to change. Just notice that. Okay. Of course, in the reclaiming power, I talk about that's when things do change, but you no longer need it to change because it's no longer causing you resistance or suffering. I'm just going back through the notes of the reclaiming power. The other thing I've spoken about here about allowing it to be, you also give it space, right? It's another understanding. Like when you allow something to be, you actually give it space, right? You like to give something space is to purely let that. Again, I'm not talking about the external here, and you might allow something in the external to be as well because you feel it's supportive. It's about allowing how you feel, the sensations. Highlight the truth, right? It's not positive or negative. It's your perception of what you think is causing your energy, this vibration, this sensation that causes you to go, this sensation is positive or negative. But it's just energy. This is a deeper understanding of reclaiming power. You must realize that it's not good or bad, right or wrong. It never was. It never was. And only you know that from your experience of reclaiming power. If you've reclaimed power, if you've done this process, you get to a point where you feel completely neutral, or actually before you get to neutrality, you just feel the energy. You forget about what is causing that energy or what assumingly is causing that energy. All you feel is an energy, a sensation. It's neither good or bad. It's strong. It can be intense, right? But that's what happens as you begin to resolve, the energies get stronger, right? As Harold talked about, as they get together and they have that spark, There is a bang, but the bang's in you. You're banging yourself. So I just wanted to talk about that. I'm going back through the Reclaiming Power video, giving it space, allowing it to be, place your attention on the truth. The truth shall set you free. We've heard that stuff. Freedom is being free of resistance. Okay, that's what true freedom is. And what's resistance? Resistance is when you experience and charge an energy, if you like, that you then identify as something that is causing that charge, and you are suppressing it, then you experience resistance. So rather than feeling it, you feel the resistance of what it is. And that's when, and again, so many people, when they first start this, they go, Amir, I was sitting with it. I've been sitting with this for weeks. And then as I asked more questions, I realized they were never sitting with it. They were sitting with the resistance of it. That's not it. When you sit with the emotion, you open up and give space to the emotion that you're feeling, or the energy, or the charge, or the sensation, or whatever word you get to, because ultimately it's just a sensation. Ultimately it's just a charge, but you may experience that as an emotion, or at very first you may experience it as a resistance. Now, another point I wrote here from the video is free will is not charged. Another point here: how does an infinite choose? We'll talk about this. I'm going to be talking about more of that in Reclaiming Power, on manifestation anyway. I noticed that the second part of Reclaiming Power, the second video, was a lot about manifestation anyway. It was no mistake that the next video, the next session is manifestation. And remember, when I recorded these, I never knew what the next topic was going to be. But there's no mistake. I could see in that video, the second video, I'm sure you've all watched it again. We're doing it. I'm sure you all rewatched it. You'll notice that it's really going into the idea of manifestation. So, yes. So today's been about perception and understanding how perception plays the role of reclaiming power, and where perception comes from, which we went back to belief. What influences your belief, or what forms your beliefs? Okay, so there's beliefs that is coming from your knowing, and there's beliefs that's coming from influence stuff externally. Okay, the external beliefs that are influencing your, or programming your beliefs, is creating the pattern to continue. It's something, and you go, why does this keep happening to me? Because that's what you believe. Okay, and then you try not to think about it, but you believe it, so then you think about it. And anyway, I won't go into it more because we are out of time. We've got 10 more minutes, so I'd like to open up for questions, comments, contributions. Abe, I'll come to you next, Kira. Yes, Abe.
Yeah, it's probably more or less a contribution, and part and parcel, adding to reclaiming power. I went last Friday with a friend, Centennial Park, sun gazing, and we were sitting there looking. I had my eyes closed, and my friend asked, "Are you looking into the sun?" And I said, "Yes, I look into the sun." And so I asked myself, what is this, all about? And then I started to realize, so the sun, for me to remember, though, that I have the sun in me, and that it is shining on everything else, that gives light to appearances.
Mm-hmm.
That was quite a big realization, and also quite beautiful. Ties in with what you've been talking about.
Cool. Thanks, Abe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kira?
Amir,
Kira.
I don't understand. I don't understand how this process clears your beliefs. Like, and I don't know that I need to understand it or just have a knowing of that and then trust that maybe through pondering I have a deeper understanding and experience of that. But it's that never has landed for me. The part that lands for me is the part where you reconnect that, like, I can see my limited beliefs create a loop in my reality, right? That I continue to experience similar things. But so that part lands, and to then have a knowing of this genre of information and a connection to that, I can see that the more that I know that, the more that I believe that, the more that I experience it, right? It allows something to come to fruition. But I don't understand how the connecting with a charge or energies will then clear the belief.
Well, here's the question that I would ask you, Kira, is, and this is something we maybe need to ponder on a bit more, but when we say there's a charge, right? Where is it? Where is the charge? Where do you store a charge? Where's it kept? Because the moment it becomes a charge, it's the moment it becomes something, and it then continuously takes up space in your mind. And you know that because you think about it and it continuously pops up in your mind. And then you make choices based on this charge, whether that is to fix, improve, or change, or to avoid it, or to attain, or to control it. Like, where is this charge stored? That's a question. I mean, I know I talk about when you're experiencing an emotion is not necessarily in your body. You experience it as being your body, but ultimately we're all one, right? So the emotion could be out here, but you don't go, it's out there. You identify it being here. So like, we identify something being stored within our body. It's how we identify with these things. So where is a charge, stored? Some people will go, well, it's stored in my stomach, or because I always feel it in my stomach. It's stored here or it's stored there. But
Sure.
It's a question.
I mean, because when I think about, and maybe this is like a matter of semantics, but when I think about a belief, I think about it as like when you say, where is it charged? I think, well, it's stored in a thought. Like,
okay,
it's
and
stored.
Where's your thoughts stored?
Well, like a cluster of thoughts, I guess, becomes a belief. And actually, that reminds me, is that loop that you put together on that slide, does it not include thoughts as well?
Which loop?
It's that slide. It's thoughts influence your beliefs, influence your perception, which then creates your reality, which then feeds your thoughts.
Yeah, because your thoughts come from your beliefs, and your thoughts feed your beliefs, and vice versa. And we could do a whole thing about which one comes first, your thought or your belief. We could do that, but we're moving on to manifestation next. So, but we could do that. We could do a pondering session, and everyone does a homework. Which one comes first, your thought or your belief? So I'm going to write those two things down right now anyway, just in case we do continue with that. So where do you store your charge? So not your emotion, your charge. Okay, where's the charge stored? And does the thought, what's the question? Does the thought create the belief, or what was it?
Does the thought create the belief, or does the belief create the thought?
Does the thought create the belief? Or does the belief create the thought? Okay, I'm going to write that down for now. We'll see if we need to visit that. Harold, yes.
Just a quick question. I'm still struggling with the idea, or with actually putting my attention on the truth. Thoughts like, yeah, which part of the truth, or what is the truth? What I understand from today is that the truth might be the same thing as the inner knowing. Would you support that? Can you
Absolutely
say this? Okay.
But I'm going to take that, because that I've noticed that in the sessions that Gaz and Jamie's running, that's something that people do struggle with, especially if you're more of an intellectual person. So you use more of you're a smart guy and you use a lot of your intellect. I find that it's difficult to go, well, what's the truth? How do I place my attention on the truth? So I definitely want to highlight that question, and I want to talk more about that before we kick off manifestation. So I will definitely place that question as a pondering question, and I want you guys to come back to me and go, well, how do you place your attention on your truth? What's the process? It's not necessarily a step 1, step 2 thing. We know that, but what's your process? What's Yari's process? What's Carolyn's process? What's Amy's process of placing your attention on the truth? So that's definitely something that has been coming up a lot. So I'm definitely going to put that in the pondering homework.
I have something to say about that, Amir. There's one thing that you said about the reclaiming power process, and about that's something that I'd never really heard before. I heard it in a new way. You talk about sensing. Like, I've never heard you used to talk about feeling. And I don't remember if it was the last session that we met as a group, or I wasn't there anyway, but when I listened to the recording, or if it was an old module or something, but you kept talking about sensing the truth rather than like feel the truth or place your attention on the truth. And I felt like that really changed how I was experiencing like, oh, what does it mean to sense infinity or myself as the one, to sense it? Because it's like a sensation. You talked about the 6 senses, this sensation, almost like it is an awareness, but like a visceral body awareness, which I felt helped me have a deeper experience of, what you would normally have once called feeling. You know what I mean?
Okay. That is a good point, and I want you guys, if you're pondering, that's actually a good point that Kira has brought up, is sensing. I do actually cover that in OMG, and I say, because if you go back to OMG, I'm teaching the guys, how do you place your attention on the truth? And one of the things I say, I ask lots of questions to get them to realize they are sensing it. All right. And we talk about the 6th sense. So this is covered in the OMG module, probably not to a great detail, but maybe you go watch that again. And because you've still got like 2 more weeks of Reclaiming Power videos still coming up. So let's continue. That's definitely an important question. How do you reclaim your power on the truth? And there is a clue in OMG. I actually talk about sensing, and I talk about the 6th sense. So it is covered in the OMG module. I just watched it recently. But I think we need to discuss it more.